Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today on this episode, we're going to talk about sneaky overthinking triggers. So if you are an anxious girly in your relationship, you are anxiously attached, you have relationship anxiety, you are in your head ruminating, replaying past conversations, looking at past text messages, thinking in your head, does he still like me? Does he still love me? Then this podcast in general, this whole podcast and this episode is going to really help you. And I am really excited about this particular episode because really there are a lot of different triggers, I believe, for overthinking. And this one's going to be very specific because we're going to be talking today around loneliness. Loneliness is going to be the topic. And we're going to dive into how I really believe that is such a huge trigger for so many things with people pleasing, with boundaries, your anxiety, and it's not really looked at a lot. So if you are excited to talk about your triggers and to get over them, to not be triggered by them, then buckle in, honey. And if you are new here, my name is Claire. I'm a relationship coach and I love helping overachieving, overdoing, you guys are giving it all you got type of girlies that are really doing well in many facets of your life. You are climbing the corporate ladder, you have multiple businesses, you are an academic, you're in medical school, you're a medical doctor. I mean, literally, when I look at the women in my community that are my clients, this is overachieving is an understatement. So if you are that kind of girly who has so much to show in your relationship, but so struggling so much in your romantic relationship, then you're in the right spot, honey. And I am really excited to go into this topic today, and I just want to give a little explicit warning that I'm going to be talking and sharing around thoughts around food, thoughts around the body, and so if talking about those issues can be very triggering and activating and put you in not a great spot when it comes to healthy and unhealthy relationships with food or your body or how you see your body, then just fair warning that if this activates you, please stop this. This is not the episode for you. Well, not the entire episode, but I will be sharing about that. So just fair warning, all right? So let's talk loneliness. And this is something that is seriously so toxic is not really the right word. It's problematic. It's really problematic. And I don't think that we look at loneliness as the pandemic that it is. And literally during the pandemic, the problem with loneliness was really amplified. I mean, the world literally got to experience a whole new layer and level of what lonely actually looked like, where we were isolated, we were wearing masks. I mean, we even interact in our world by reading facial expressions, reading body language. So we literally reached a new layer and level of loneliness that mankind, I don't believe, has ever known in how our society is set up these days. So I want to talk about loneliness when it comes to anxious attachment and feeling anxious in your relationship. And I will admit that I didn't really relate to being lonely. And that's because I didn't understand that there was really two types of loneliness. There's social loneliness, so people who like to isolate, aka avoidance. They like to isolate, they want to withdraw, they don't want to be around people. This is, you could easily say that this is more introverted, but avoidants are not introverts and introverts are not avoidants. So I am an extrovert. Hello, I'm a fire sign. I'm a Sagittarius. If y'all didn't know, my fire signs, I love you. You get it. But I definitely didn't relate to the social loneliness, but I was definitely emotionally starving. I was so emotionally lonely. And this is a common misunderstanding because we tend to, as a society, only see loneliness from a social aspect. And I look at all the women in my community that are in my world, and there is definitely a problem with their emotional loneliness. And this, just to share even more, I am extroverted in my 20s. I mean, I was a cheerleader, shocker, not shocker, in high school, throughout college. I worked in restaurants. I was a server. I was a hostess. I mean, I did a lot of extroverted things. College cheerleader, I mean, hello, like that's just like one of the ultimate expressions for just being social and putting yourself out there. So I was, yes, surrounded by a lot of people. And gosh, I'm just thinking about that period in my life in my 20s. I was around a lot of people. I had a very packed social calendar. In fact, I don't even know how I fit so many activities and people and parties into my experience. And at the same time, I really did not feel seen. I felt like I was not like an alien, but I felt so separate, and I felt like this big wall between me and other people. Like people didn't really get me, and part of that was because also a lot of times we think that it's emotionally lonely because we're not getting interaction from people. But the reality is, and I really want to emphasize this with you, I was emotionally disconnected from myself. I will say that again because this is so important. I was emotionally disconnected from myself. And it really, in my 20s, I mean, that was like, it was the worst then. I mean, I had a full-blown eating disorder. I was kind of going back and forth between anorexia and bulimia. And it was a deep, dark secret for me. It was so shameful. I remember being in college, my freshman year, I was living with my best friend, and I was having a full episode where she caught me. She caught me in an episode, and we never talked about it again. Never. We never brought it up. And granted, she was in her own process of dealing and battling with depression. And it's so unironically ironic that we were both struggling so much, but at the same time, we were so disconnected from each other. And I know with my whole heart that the reason that I was so troubled with my body and troubled with food was because I was just not connected to my emotions. And to be fair, and this is not an excuse, but it gives me history, right? I don't believe in excuses. We all have choice. But at that time, and from my early lived experience, I did not have good modeling for how to have a healthy relationship with emotion. Both of my parents had their own struggles with emotions and how they expressed them, how they felt their own emotions, and that translated into how they taught me how to deal with emotions. I mean, there was many times where crying was just not only not allowed, but it just wasn't valuable. Like, why cry about it? Don't cry. Get over it was kind of the attitude. I mean, and I also just want to say that this might sound very general, but when it comes to your own specific relationship with your emotions, this goes so incredibly deep. Because everybody's makeup is unique. I really believe that. So, but I'm just sharing my own experience. So when it comes to loneliness and how my relationship with loneliness and how it evolved, yes, I have healed my eating disorder. I've healed my relationships. But really, when I look at the path of my relationship with loneliness and emotional loneliness and being emotionally starved from myself, that really has been a huge problem. And then we get into relationships and things that you may not have had a full-on deal like I did, but when we don't have great relationships with our emotions and we stifle them, we ignore them, we distract from them, we avoid, we numb, we do all the things except for feel our emotions, we might be able to get by in many different areas in life. You will get by in your career. You might. I mean, there definitely have some clients that have struggled with burnout, as I have too. You will get away with friendships, but romantic relationship, oof, I gotta tell you, romantic relationship will expose all of these issues because in my perspective, in my world, we are all mirrors. We're all creating a reality where universe, God, spirit is providing us with the opportunity to heal. So it's not it's not ironic that we create these mirrors, these relationships, these people into our lives that are showing us the opportunity to heal. So when you have anxious attachment, and we go back and look at what is your relationship with emotions? Are you expressing them well? Are you actually feeling them? And then it shows up in our relationship. Loneliness is 100% a big culprit. And I just want to go over a couple of markers that I've noticed for myself and what I see with my clients with how loneliness really impacts just so much of our mental health, but specifically with overthinking and being anxious in your relationship. So one marker with loneliness is that it is so harmful for our self-esteem. And when we are isolated, when we're alone, we tend to think negatively, right? Because we're not getting any exposure, we're not getting maybe not the right support. Maybe not you are getting support, but maybe is it the right support? And so the more that we are just kind of spiraling with our own negativity, and like TikTok, I mean, I love TikTok, don't get me wrong, but social media, I'm not going to point the finger at TikTok exclusively, but we can get into this big spiral. We start to look at, I'll just say straight up, like toxic dating advice. If he wanted to, he would just like, just stop those negative thoughts. And so when you're interacting with social media, really it's social, but you're sitting in your bed by yourself on your side scrolling. It can be really harmful to your self-esteem. I mean, also just like take out the relationship part, look at bodies, right? I mean, thank God I did not have social media. It was not a big thing when I was in my prime of having really a tough time with eating and food, but it wasn't great. I was still looking at magazines. I was still exposed to it, maybe not to the level of social media now, but you can see that when we're lonely, when we're isolated, we tend to just take those negative views and keep going with them. So first benchmark with loneliness is that it's really harmful to your sense of self, your sense of self-esteem, your own confidence. The second thing is that loneliness can cause anxiety. And I want to give different ways that this can happen. So maybe you are so lonely that you kind of like build up seeing other people. Like you get anxious with the thought of somebody leaving. Obviously, hello, abandonment issues. Or it can actually be the opposite. I see this sometimes with clients where they are lonely and it causes them some social anxiety. They get a little nervous when the actual event is about to happen or they're going to meet somebody. It kind of causes even more anxiety. So if you are not getting exposure or getting support in other ways with your emotions and solving that loneliness, or at least helping it or supporting it, it does cause anxiety, right? The third thing is with loneliness is that you can really be disabled or not at your full effect with how you deal with being distressed or stressed. So when you're lonely, I mean, you don't have a support system. You're isolated. So when those stressful times happen, and P.S., that's life. Like life is just gonna be stressful. I say that with so much love, and that's just the reality. Like life is stressful. And so loneliness can really amplify and make that matter worse, because it's kind of like you're just yelling into a void, or you feel alone. You don't have other people to get support from or other input or perspective. That's really important when we are feeling emotionally isolated or lonely. We need that support in order to actually feel connected, to deal with that stress. So I just noticed that all over, and I want your real chew here is to look at, wow, okay, how is my loneliness impacting my overthinking? And so just looking back, like let's kind of do a review. So are you isolated? You're looking at social media, you're looking at videos, and is that only building up the negative perspectives that you have? Okay. The other piece is that, is it causing you anxiety? Like, is not getting those needs met emotionally or socially, more emotionally, is that causing problems for you when it comes to being in a relationship? Is it causing more anxiety when you meet up with them, or is it amplifying that separation from them? Something to consider. The third piece is loneliness. Like, how are you feeling like you're not able to handle the stress as well because you are isolated and you're alone? I mean, this is just, and again, isolation and loneliness is so directly correlated to mental health, right? I mean, that's just, come on. That's just something that we overlook a lot of times, especially when it comes to relationship, because we're like, well, we're relating to people. And again, if you are feeling emotionally starving for connection, for intimacy, for love, and you're not getting those needs met in some way, shape, or form in other areas, and mostly from yourself, like if you are not being with, seeing, hearing, feeling your own emotions, you're going to have trouble no matter how many relationships you have. Take it from me. So I really wanted to put a stake in the ground for you to look at your loneliness, and not just from a social standpoint, but from an emotional standpoint, because it's really, really important. And I just also want to say, if you're feeling that emotional loneliness, then great news for you. I am opening up something really exciting, and it's honestly been such a long time coming, because earlier in the year I did a dating challenge, and the community was like so fire. The community was just so awesome. You guys were connecting and talking and just following each other. It was so incredible. And I am playing with something. I'm testing something out, and what is really cool is, in this testing period with this free community, totally free, it's free until it's not, I'm going to be gifting you opportunities to get some exclusive time with me, and a course that has not been released, a training, an exclusive training, a private training, and all of that is just to have you come into the community totally for free. And all you have to do to get all the goodies is give your feedback, because I want to co-create this with you. This community, and what I'm hoping and what I would love is for this to be a membership. I want this to be something that you feel like you've really helped shape, because I'm doing this with you. I want to do this with you, and I want to co-create it with you, and I'm really excited. So I'll leave the link in the show notes below to sign up, and when you sign up, you're going to get lots of perks. Again, a training, exclusive access to me, you're going to get a course, like so many things just for being in the group and giving your feedback. So I'll put the link down in the show notes. I'm really holding in my heart for you that you take a look at where in your life and where are you lonely, and how can you tap into yourself. All right, angels, I'll see you in the Healing Girl gang, and I love you. Mwah!